Hey everyone, welcome back to our part two, second episode on analyzing everything that is Jennifer Lopez and 1997's Selena. We decided about halfway through our recording last night that, damn, we've been talking for like 2.5 hours and we needed to dedicate more time to talk about this.
Yes, so props to you if you're even bothering to listen to the second part and bearing with my fangirlness and Simone's fangirlness as well. But
My fangirl over overalls, definitely. And I think so. If you took a pause listening to this in our previous episode, we just discussed the relationship that Jennifer Lopez had in making this role with the Quintanilla family and Chris Perez. We went over some of the behind the scenes details on making of the movie. We talked a lot about outfits, overalls, sequins, bustiers, and music. And today we are focusing on what? We're going to focus on
we're talking
solely.
about performances,
Yup.
the music, definitely get more into like dissecting JLo's acting in this role.
Yes.
And then we'll kind of maybe wrap up a little bit. At least the movie will wrap up with our typical like talking about like comparing other movies. If we would, what would this look like as a remake or something along those lines, which we don't really have to wonder too much about because there is a series that came out last year. So really talking about that. And then our initial idea for the two-parter really was to talk about the movie, and then second part talk about Selena herself a little bit. So we'll be wrapping up really with paying tribute and homage to Selena and kind of talking about what she means to us, what we've learned about her, and just fangirling some more. So
we started with fangirling, we ended with fangirling, and we're going to end again with more fangirling.
This is just a fangirl podcast, really.
I mean, truly. All right. So, with picking up where our conversation left off yesterday, we had kind of ended on this note. We were just about to kind of get into this music, talking about the musical performances, both of this movie and of Selena. And we had the opportunity to watch some side-by-side clips of various performances that have been spliced together to give us more of an idea. So, Bria, why don't you start? Because I know you had a lot to say about the Astrodome scene.
Oh my God.
Or
okay.
What
were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, I didn't want to put you under pressure there. If you're not ready, I can
I get, granted, we are doing a podcast, so I am doing this to share my thoughts. I have lots of thoughts, so sometimes it's like, somebody stop me. Okay, lots of thoughts but let's just focus right now, Bria, on the Astrodome recreation scene. So I learned so much more about that scene in recreation than I knew before. And I think one have to commend like the filmmakers for going the extra mile to do that, to go to the Alamo Dome to recreate that performance, which is her last concert. And I believe I watched, I believe in some behind the scenes footage or talking about the movie, Gregory Nava talked about how important it was to show like that's like her last performance. So it's really essentially showing the growth and like kind of where she was right before she died and just how much potential and everything that had come together, how that had blossomed into this beautiful thing. And when you watch the real footage of that performance, like it still holds up and still is just as magical. And if anything, I just rewatched some of it before we got on, side by sides of JLo and Selena. And if anything, the movie just elevates it a little more because obviously like movie magic is going to make it look like way more cinematic and all that stuff. But having so many extras in the crowd actually come and participate in that, and I think that just adds to like the vibe. And I think for JLo's performance, it added the realness of like, we're doing this, because I think they shot that like a couple weeks into filming. Like
Oh, wow.
it wasn't the last thing they shot, or the last thing JLo shot was the Grammy acceptance.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so she kind of got thrust onto the stage really early and she talks about a lot in the interviews she did at the time about how special it was to feel that energy from the fans and to hear them cheering, especially after the controversy of, you know, people not really supporting that she was cast as Selena because she's Puerto Rican. And all of that kind of goes out the window once like you go on the stage and fans are cheering for you. And she mentions that they were also cheering for her and saying Jennifer, which, you know, part of me is like, were they really? But 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 you know, I can only imagine like feeling that support back, like, okay, I can do this, and like I'm doing something that these people really want to see and are supporting, and just having that power behind you. But I also, in the comparisons, you can clearly see how much JLo studied Selena in her movements. And I think it's easy to write it off like as JLo having had a dancer background, being able to just replicate her moves and stuff. And she talks about in interviews how, you know, it's not that easy because it's not choreography. Like
Mm-hmm.
Selena really was just a natural performer and a natural dancer. She didn't have like boom cats and like, you know, actual choreography like that. And naturally we all have like a way that we want to like dance and move and like our go-to moves. And Jennifer Lopez had to really like, I can't do that. I can't do what I naturally just want to do. I have to do it as if I'm her and like the things she would do. And I think she does that really well in a way that doesn't look really choreographed and looks natural. And like she also talks about like they did pull like certain things that Selena did a lot and
Mm-hmm.
go to things that, you know, Jennifer could like, you know, oh, I know she like points, or I know she like does this a lot. So I think that was key too, to have things like, okay, I know I can do this, like these 10 things, and I will look as similar and close as possible, but spontaneously as her. So I think obviously you see that in all the other performances, but the side by side of the Astrodome performances is like amazingly out of this world, like close.
Oh, totally. I 100% agree. And I think that the unbelievable amount of pressure that Jennifer Lopez must have been feeling to put on this recorded concert in a way, this musical performance in front of all of these extras who are really diehard Selena fans. Well, maybe I don't want to use that word, but really hardcore Selena fans, to not only have them understand that she's not trying to like replace Selena, but in a way she is trying to be her because she is fulfilling a role and she's trying to emulate posture and movements and hand gestures and flicks and things like that. And so I think it's a really fine line that actors who are playing those kinds of characters in a biopic film, they really have to walk this really fine space of trying to make sure that they not only get that character down in a way that's respectful and pays tribute to them, but also is not trying to 100% emulate them,
Yeah.
because you do want to put maybe your own personal spin onto things. So I think it's really clear, like you said, that J Lo had studied Selena, that she had memorized these choreographed dance moves that she would fall back on throughout her performances to make it seem as natural as possible. And that she was never trying to like replace her, but just show everyone who and remind everyone of who she was as a performer.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy for especially music biopics to do an impersonation of someone. It's very easy to, and we all like, we'll all break out in a faux moonwalk or like a little Beyonce dance or single ladies, because we've all seen like iconic moves like that over and over again, and we all think, oh, we know a little bit of that. But it's way different to do an impersonation of someone than to actually try to capture like their stage presence and like the essence of like who they are as a performer and the genuine quality that they give off that fans really like hold on to. And for me, like really looking at this movie like with more than just like my heart and like how I feel about Selena and how I felt being young watching this movie and just the nostalgia of it. Like really looking at this performance by Jennifer Lopez, I don't watch this movie and think like, oh, I'm watching J-Lo play Selena. For what's the duration of this movie? Like an hour and something. But for the duration of this movie, 127 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So for 127 minutes, I am watching, and it's a weird place to be in too, because now as an adult, I absolutely know who Selena herself is. But like, it's really like movie Selena in this alternate universe timeline almost, where it's like she's not Jennifer Lopez, she's not the real Selena, but it's like movie Selena this is the intro to Selena. And I, even watching it this time, like I had to, of course I did for the podcast, to go watch like Selena's music videos and performances and stuff and try to watch interviews. But like, it's like I have to do that also to snap myself out of like the movie Selena like version. And that's just like credit to Jennifer's performance and just how they filmed the movie and the family too and all that. It's just so well done in that respect. But yeah, it's not like doing karaoke and singing along for the sake of singing along. Like, even though she lip synced so much, like how you talked about the I Could Fall in Love scene. Like I too, like watching that in my mind, like when I want to listen to J-Lo like sing, I want that to come out of her mouth.
Yes.
And it's a little bit like, no shade, it's a little bit of a disappointment that because she could sing that so well, like it was really believable and it felt real. Like those were words and sounds and notes coming out of her mouth. That's how well she lip synced. And she didn't even lip sync in a way that's just like, yeah, I'm singing along to the song. Like the way she sang stuff, she intentionally studied like how would Selena, like her mouth and her pronunciation and like the shape and like movement and stuff. And that's important too, because a lot of singers, they sing differently. Like, sometimes some people, have really wide mouth pronunciation. I'm trying to think like
Christina
John
Aguilera. I was like, she
or like John Mayer, he like has like a weird like mouth like thing. Yeah, and like when he was really young, it was really like pronounced, and he's like gotten like out of that a little bit. But like singers have those things, and
Totes.
I think J-Lo studied all of that stuff to be able to bring these performances to life as if they were the exact same performances from Selena.
And in my like very rudimentary experience in like high school and college choir, when you are performing, even if like when we would do our big spring performances to musicals, we would record ourselves singing, and then when we would perform, we were most likely lip syncing so that we could keep up with our like dance choreography, because to be able to like sing and dance at the same time without like like it's so tiring. It's so hard. But like we would sing, maybe just not like as loud, but it'd be like, yeah, no, whatever. So like I'm sure at some point, or I'm sure while that scene or any scene in particular, she probably was singing,
Oh
but
yeah,
that
she
like
said she was.
that yeah, that they would just have her mic turned off and then like the Selena sound pushed up, so that,
Yeah.
because that's what makes it so much easier. But I like what you mentioned about karaoke, because it's like anyone could go to a bar and pick out a song to sing for karaoke, and we know that they're like, unless you are vocally trained and practice to like really sound like someone else, like there's some really great lyrical impressionists out there,
Yeah.
um it's always just gonna be like someone singing a Selena song. And in this like deep dive last night and this morning of watching these side by side comparisons, I started watching other people covering her music and covering her performances. And in most commonly we see them a lot in these big televised shows like American Idol or America's Got Talent, or the X Factor or whatever, and they'll try and sing these big ballads like I Could Fall in Love or Dreamin', or some of these, and not just Selena but like even Whitney Houston songs,
Yeah.
Mariah Carey songs, like those are almost untouchable in my opinion. Like people should just stay away from trying to sing those kinds of songs, because you're going to want to try to emulate the original, because their voices were so raw and so real and so good, but you're never ever going to be able to get that. And
Yeah.
so I think that leads us into how you felt about Jennifer Lopez's later performances. Once she has got her singing career started, she has covered Selena songs in touring, in concert, and for other live performances. So what do you have to say about that?
Just throw me under the J-Lo bus, under Big Bertha.
Please don't come for us, JLo. We really do love you.
Yes, if you had my love, and I'm real, and Jenny from the Block, and Love Don't Cost a Thing, bops, jams, love you. But um, so J Lo, actually, I learned this about her. She never really toured, despite like having all those albums like '90s, early 2000s. She never really had a big like a world tour or anything. So, but so on that tour, not to this has a point. But on that tour, she did a tribute to Selena, and she sang I Could Fall in Love, which is on YouTube. It's on her Vivo. And obviously, watching other Selena videos and watching J-Lo, Selena movie stuff, it came up. So I was like, oh, hey. And it's not a bad performance by any means, but it totally helped like me realize how much she studied and put into playing Selena, because obviously this is just Jennifer performing, and this is Jennifer. So yeah, so obviously she did, I'm sure she has some of that in her bag of tricks, because I think this movie really helped propel her towards music and performing as well as acting, like, but took her on a side road. But anyways, so this is truly who Jennifer Lopez is herself as a performer, completely removed from having played Selena, but tributing her. And you can see the difference. You can see the difference of like, this is how she sings. This is how she gestures. This is how her mouth moves when she is actually singing. And this is all of those things. You can see the clear difference, especially if you had just watched a bunch of other Selena stuff for the movie and you watch that. So, I mean, of course, her voice is like nowhere close to Selena's, like for I Could Fall in Love. And going back to like the scene where she's in the studio in the movie and she's singing that, and like we both really love that scene and like are just like totally into it, bought into it. I'm thinking she's recording the song and this is how it went, and this is exactly the copy that is out there on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, on CDs. This is how this was made. Like if you that's in my mind, this is what happened. And you watch J-Lo's performance and you're like, no, that really wasn't her. And that's okay. But like, that's just a testament to her acting ability in that role.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that. And I think that I would have rather her sing that song if she was to sing it live. Just do it in her own way and not try to be Jennifer Lopez playing Selena in this TV in this movie, whatever. I know it's not a made for TV movie, but like in this movie. So she's truly just covering a Selena song, but in her style of singing. And I know that like it's different, but I liked it better that way. And for those who want to look it up and watch this, it's a live performance from a clip from her Let's Get Loud tour.
Yeah.
And
even her outfit too, like it's completely like, of course, style and fashion is different, but like it's completely J-Lo. Like
it's good. Yeah. The only tribute I would have said was because she had her hair back in like a very tight low bun. The flower. But other than that, like it was a very classic Jennifer Lopez look. And she's standing in front of these mirrors, these like tall mirrors. And so when you look at her dead on, you see her like 5 of her, but like her back. And so
trying to show that booty.
Trying to show that booty, those assets, baby. And so when she turns around, like in the middle of the song, she kind of like turns around and it goes dark on her. And then we see these clips of Selena, which I thought was a very lovely tribute. And you could tell like those were her vocals. She was singing live. She went for it. We know that Jennifer Lopez is not a belter. She does not do these like that song's a ballad song. It's a slow song. And typically when people go to sing for it, you want to like really let's get loud. Like you really put a lot into it. But I actually liked that it was very soft spoken. And towards the end, she breaks and her band kind of waits for her to like catch back up again to play. And I don't know if that's because like she got too caught up in like the crowd cheering for her. She was trying to do it for a dramatic like pause effect, or if she found herself getting really emotional.
Yeah. Do you know what? Because there's another J-Lo Selena tribute. I think I will give her the benefit of that. I think she got emotional. And I think, and I will say it probably also, when people perform stuff like that and film it, they know like we're filming this concert tonight. So this might be like on the DVD or it might be a live video on YouTube. So not to say that she didn't do it also for the dramatics of it, but I do think she legit got emotional, and maybe with the intention of like, I know that we're filming this as well, just a little bit in her mind. But and to bring up the other Selena tribute, it's more recent, and it's with Selena's husband Chris and Suzette and AB, and it's more of a medley of Selena songs.
It was like the disco medley that we hear in the beginning, right? Of the Selena movie so we have like Como La Flor, Bitty Bitty Bum Bum.
Yeah, so it's like a medley of those songs, not the disco medley, which is like a medley of like Donna Summer.
Oh, right. Yeah. It was like Selena medley, and this is the performance where it's a gold sequin 2-piece outfit that Jennifer Lopez is wearing, right? I think it was like from 2017.
She like has like 3 outfit changes. Yeah,
Which
very,
is
I
very
think,
more typical to Jennifer Lopez. Yeah.
yeah, but her outfits are very in tribute to Selena, but in a
Yeah.
very J-Lo way, because it's gold, it's like
Yes.
nude, shimmery, which is like totally not Selena's brand. Selena was very like much about like color and yes, sequins and stuff and rhinestones and studs, and but she also wore like a lot of black
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And obviously JLo's brand has been like this glow dewy type thing, so it's very much on brand for her. Her hair's like slicked back. I wasn't really a fan of her hair in that tribute, but I thought she could have did something more Selena-esque, but it was very JLo. And again, differentiating, like, yes, I'm honoring like something that I contributed in terms of the movie and someone that I now have a lot of respect for because of that. And but I'm still my own, I have become my own person and my own artist. And again, like vocally it isn't on par with Selena, but I think it's so beautiful that she's, because for me sometimes actors, they will be known forever for something and they're like really sour pusses about it. Like, you know, like JLo has gone on to do so much more than Selena, but for her to still like have so much like respect for the movie and for fans still like loving the movie and still being able to reach out to her family, and like even with like recent Selena anniversary stuff, if she's asked about it, she's still very like, you know, this movie changed my career, it changed my life. And learning about Selena, like, you know, I take a part of her with me in this journey and all this stuff. Whereas like some actors will be like, oh God, like I don't want to talk about like whatever Batman or, and I get it. Those are like different kind of
If
roles.
they flop.
I just threw that out there. But like, you know, just appreciating like what made you in a sense. And like Selena didn't completely make her, but it is such a pivotal point in her career. And for her to keep that like close to her and revere it versus being like, yeah, I mean, Selena was great, but like, have you seen Hustlers? Like, or like, I totally produced this show, Shades of Blue, and I'm playing the hell out of that role. Like, why don't we talk about that instead of Selena from 1997, which she could totally do, but she doesn't. And so, mad props to her on that. But so, not to get too far off of JLo and Selena, but like, what was your favorite music sequence or like besides the ones that we talked about? Because like the Como La Flor sequence, like I used to like pop in the DVD and just watch that for a quick sec, because it's so like it's such a climactic part of the movie, and it's so dramatic that it just like every time it just gets me like, and when they like triple screen it and it's like her in the middle and then the crowd on the side and
Yes.
the sun and stuff, and like the slow like start, like just hits me.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite uh musical performance clip. And that was the moment in the movie when um Selena and the band have to step off the stage because the crowd gets really riled up, and they had way more people than they had expected at that outdoor concert, and the venue was not made for that space. And so the stage starts to fall apart. They leave, and then they decide to come back, but Selena, now recognizing the stage presence and power that she has, is able to kind of like control the crowd a little bit better. And it's a very, very powerful moment. So,
so from Chris Perez's book and his just interviews he's done as well, like they, according to him, they downplayed how like scary that actually was.
the movie
Like,
downplayed it.
yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
usually you're like, oh, yeah, of course they made it more dramatic. Like, this time they actually didn't make it more dramatic. Like, it was
Jeez.
worse than in the movie. Like, he says that he thought they were like, he was planning on like, if we need to hop this like wall or like, or something to get out of there, like how, and at that time they were married. Like, and I think in the movie, that's like not yet true. Like it's out of sequence in terms of that. But like in real life, they were married at that time. Like, how am I going to get Selena out of this if like shit really goes left? Because it was that bad. Like it was that rowdy and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's great in the movie, but the fact that it happened in real life and the fact that Selena could go out there and legit control such a large crowd and situation speaks volumes to like her presence and the way people loved her. Because yeah, concerts can get crazy. Like
Yeah.
and they can get crazy during the concert, and it's not even like a thing where it's like, okay, stop the show. Like it's just like, oh, these people are fucking up my concert experience, but the show is still going on. So like the fact that it got to the point where it became an issue in terms of her performing and her like being safe on stage, and she was able to like go back out there and be like, hey, you guys can see me, you guys want to see me, and that's who they're there for. So they were able to like take a step back a little bit, and then she's like, I got this. I'm gonna perform, we're gonna continue on, it's gonna be great. But I mean, mad props to that actual real life situation, because it's great in the movie, but like the way it was portrayed in the book and stuff, it sounded like way more scarier than they led on to be. Since we're so far off like of this, I just want to throw this out there.
Please.
Another thing I learned that I thought was interesting was that Abraham did not want to show Chris and Selena's elopement in the movie. He didn't want to like glorify that for like her young fans and stuff. And I thought that was interesting. And there's lots of like kind of tension and stuff, and not so great relations between Chris and the family and stuff. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that he kind of wanted to leave that out, because that's such another pivotal part of the movie, is of them deciding to elope and like do it despite, you know, what her family says, and him becoming part of the family, and now they can live their life together and continue rocking out on stage. Any other performances? I also at the end, the Dreaming of You sequence, like I finally actually like understood what it was about. Like it just hit me this time around. Like it's not an actual performance that Selena did. I don't think she ever actually got to perform that song, but it's really like a transitional thing with like the beginning. And like, obviously we're getting to like the unfortunate murder of her. And it's like a big metaphorical thing. And like the flower being thrown and like the weird pause and stuff. And I was like, I got it this time. Like I understand, like this is a movie plot device. It's not like another like concert. Because there's no one in the auditorium either. Like I just noticed that this time, like it's empty. She's not performing for anyone or like an award show or something like that. It's empty. So just throwing that out there. And then I think we talked a lot about the Beady Beady Bum Bum sequence just because of the fashion. But I love that song. I think it was dope for them to like mash up all those performances for that. Did you want to talk about the Grammy sequence? Did you find?
Oh yeah, there's so thank you to content creators out there who do that work for me. I of putting clips and stuff together. I think including the Grammy performance, or not the Grammy performance, but the Grammy award show, it would have been 1994, a 1994 Grammy acceptance. All right, so if we're in the movie sequence, I thought it was really interesting that they had decided to put in that clip of her winning the 1994 Best Mexican American album for the 36th annual Grammy Awards. And I think the choice was interesting because so much of the movie has been focused on Selena and her rise to fame, her interactions with her family and fans. But I was watching an interview of the real Selena after these Grammy performances. And after this Grammy award show, and she was back in Texas, and I think she was going to perform for the TMAs, the Tejano Music Awards. And in this interview, they were saying like, "Oh, you just recently won this Grammy. How do you feel about that?" And she was saying like, well, I was so excited to go to the award show because I was going to be amongst all these other artists and celebrities that I've grown up and admired for such a long time, that she went out and bought a camera for this, and like she was so excited to like meet people and like get autographs.
If only
Um
she had a camera phone.
I know. But she said, she's like, they didn't let me bring my camera in with me, which is bananas. But the reason why I think it's interesting that they left that in is because Jennifer Lopez, up to this point, had played Selena according to the eyes of her family and fans. But now we see this kind of added layer of acting where she has to be Selena in front of other people at an award show who know that she's not Selena. And I think that they were able to like splice a couple of clips of the original award show in with the movie, to kind of make it seem a little bit more seamless. And the speech wasn't word for word, which again, I'm glad it wasn't. But
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things of like, it's one thing to try and emulate singing and stage performing, but it's another difficult layer when you're trying to be authentically that person in that moment, because it's a really difficult scene to try and capture. Like, okay, capture someone getting their first Grammy. Like,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of pressure there. But I think overall, I said this in our part 1 episode, and I'll talk about this if we talk a little bit more about acting choices and things like that. It's just that she did such a great job at playing that fresh, young, I don't want to say naive, but just very innocent, young, upcoming singer.
Yeah. And I mean, after this, we're pretty much just talking about the acting performance and stuff. So if you want to continue on that note, I think that's still a good segue into that. Like if you have more to say about the acting choices of that scene, because I mean, I just watched it right before the comparison of the two, and I will say that Selena's actual Grammy acceptance, like I feel like you can tell she's way more nervous
Mm-hmm.
than J-Lo really portrayed. But yeah, like it's like those moments too, like that when she's eating pizza with Chris, when she still Suzette's chips on the bus, when she's doing her homework on the bus, and she's like, I'm trying to study, and like they're making fun of her about the anything for Selena's part, when she's designing like the outfits, like those little in between glimpses we get of like her just being a normal person once her and Chris are married, and she's mowing the lawn and she's talking about wanting a farm and wanting
Mm-hmm.
5 kids and all that stuff. Like I think again, like you said, like it's one thing to like kind of emulate someone performance wise and stuff, but I think uh Jennifer Lopez did a great job too of like humanizing Selena in a
Mm-hmm.
way for the movie as well, and not in a way of just she's this amazing performer, and like, you know, obviously fans know and love and remember that stuff, but like she was also someone's daughter, she's also someone's like the love of their life, their wife, someone's sister. So I think she did again a good job of capturing that side of Selena as well, and her little
Absolutely.
Texas accent. Like it wasn't that strong as real Selena's, but I think she did like a good job of just like enough, like where like you bought it, like because
Hmm.
that's totally not how Jennifer Lopez talks. So
No, no. And it's when you compare the two of them, just like artist to artist, personality to personality, much of what we have like known or heard about Jennifer Lopez is that she can be a diva and that she can be not always kind on set. Um,
oh,
and
really,
whether,
I haven't heard that.
oh, really?
Well, I mean, I also haven't really. I think as we go on, we'll get into more like stuff because as her star rises, I'm sure there are more antics to be had. I did read that one interview that I was like, oh, well, damn, JLo.
Ooh,
But
okay. Well, I mean, and that's not to, I can't say this because I don't know either of these singers personally. And I think, you know,
well, rumors don't come from anywhere either. Like,
but
there's
I
always
think
a little nugget of truth somewhere. Like it might not have been intentional that J Lo was being bitchy one day, but like, you know, there are days you unintentionally are bitchy. We all have those days, especially women. Like,
well, I think well, I think like okay, when I've seen when when I've seen interviews and interactions of the real Selena, she always seems so genuine, so down to earth, so just like a very real person. Um and interviews that I've seen with Jennifer Lopez and maybe more recently, and I'm just going to bring it back to like American Idol and stuff, like her interactions with people have not felt as nice and genuine. But again, like it's almost unfair to compare them, and I'm not trying to compare them of like who was nicer, who would have been like, because we're never going to know if
yeah,
Selena would have had that same kind of like diva moment or whatever. Like it's not fair to
yeah,
compare them side by side, but I think it again, it's a true testament to Jennifer Lopez's ability to act and be like Selena, because as fans, not a lot of people were going to know how authentic she was behind the scenes, like when she wasn't performing, when she's mowing the lawn at her house. And that was really where the study of how she was with her family came to be by
yeah.
Jennifer Lopez, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, even, okay, so thinking about it, like even the mall scene, like once everyone realizes Selena's in this one store and like take away all the shady, like dress bullshit. And like if you hone in on her signing autographs and interacting with the fans, like I think that is absolutely Jennifer Lopez playing to Selena's strength of being able to relate to people and being down to earth and stuff. I think if there was a recording of J Lo right now in a mall, or not even right now, even at the time in a mall signing autographs to fans or being found out to be in a mall, I think it would have been more of a very Hollywood type situation. And I think really that goes down to Selena having stayed in Corpus Christi and staying in Texas and being a very local like celebrity and being accessible. And unfortunately, too, I also think that was unfortunately part of her downfall is like being really trusting and open and friendly. And that's why Yolanda was able to be so close to her. And that's why she was still communicating with her, even though like there were plenty of red flags that to just end that relationship and go their separate ways. But yeah, so more into acting choices. I know I took note that like to me, like I look at making biopics as like portraits, because obviously you're
I
trying
liked
to,
your analogy of that.
yeah, you're trying to capture the essence of someone. And obviously a portrait is never going to be like the real thing. It's never going to be picture. Hell, there's pictures that like, I'm like, that's what I look like. You're never really going to be able to capture like really what you see. And I've seen a thing where it's like, even when you try to take a picture of a beautiful sunset, like it never fully captures what you're seeing with your own eyes. And we should not be so harsh on ourselves in terms of like the pictures we're in, because a lot of times we're like, oh, like I don't like how I look. And it's like the camera can only capture so much. And camera artists, whoever, actor, creating a biopic can only capture so much. But it's like the smallest thing. If I try to draw you, if I make the smallest like mistake on your nose or like something like that, it will not really look like you. And I think with biopics, it's like the small things matter. And clearly we've talked about the attention to detail Jennifer took to playing her and capturing her mannerisms and stuff. And I just think that epitomizes that in the full picture of the movie. And I know I've heard actors talk about like trying to distance themselves from the real person and realize they're playing a character and trying to find something within that character to relate to and stuff. And I think with Selena, it's probably really easy for JLo to find something like to hold on to and be able to play her the way she did. Yeah, and I think it holds up really well to this day. And I stated again and again, so far this is like her strongest role to me.
Agreed.
Yes. In this journey.
Yes. I mean, considering that like this is also her, maybe besides Anaconda, which you said Anaconda was filmed first, but Selena came out first, and then Anaconda came out second, right? So yeah. To our unreleased Anaconda video, which will never see the light of day. Just kidding. It will. But yeah, to like Anaconda, we started there first, but then we backtracked afterwards, and that,
which might have been a bad idea on my part.
No, actually, thinking about it, we should have just fucking started with Selena, but oh well. But I think this was the first time, not counting Anaconda, that she was like front center lead and was present throughout the entire movie from start to finish. And so therefore she's going to have more of a stronger role. And even too with Anaconda being top billed, or if she was not top billed, being like second name bill for that movie, that she would have, that she still had a large presence of the movie, but it wasn't like her as the main character. Like we're gonna see her later on in some of her romantic comedies, and then other suspense thriller movies like The Cell and Enough. And we're gonna see her like, you know, be more front and center and play these different characters and stuff, which I'm really excited to get into. But yeah, I agree. So far out of everything that we've seen, this is going to be the strongest performance. And I think it's going to be hard going forward too, to like not try and compare it because of our nostalgia and love for this movie and for the singer too. So we're going to have to be very like, we're going to have to be checking our biases a lot.
Oh boy, yeah. Because what's the next movie is like the one with George Clooney, right? It's like,
keep going.
No, it's the one with Sean Penn, I think. So to end, really talking about JLo and her performance, just 5 stars, like all around.
Yeah, screw you, Roger Ebert. 5 stars from me.
Yeah, he's a tough cookie, man.
He is a tough cookie. But again, it's funny because it's so subjective, right? Like he gave some movies like a lot higher credit that we were like, huh, okay. And then other movies like this, lower credit, and we're like, huh, what do you know?
And I mean, again, I think so. This is a great way to segue into this because I think biopics are just like a really special kind of movie.
Yeah.
And the relationship that you have with a biopic will vary, and just it's it's all over the board. Some biopics I've watched and I've been like super moved by and inspired by, and I will delve into that artist's like discography or certain stuff that certain songs I'd never heard before, start listening to them a ton, or now looking at YouTube and like finding videos and wanting to learn more about that person.
Right.
Selena is really that movie for me, just being super into someone because of watching a biopic. So I'll try to keep it simple. Is there another biopic movie that you feel like is you hold near and dear to your heart, or that was really, really well done that made you like want to know more about an artist?
So, in watching this movie, you and I had started talking a lot about biopics, and I realized that for me, a diehard musicale lover, I have not seen enough biopics of my lifetime that I have will need to start to go back and watch. Um, and of all the music biopics I've seen, I really like and have appreciated ones that have taken a lot of artistic liberties. And one that really comes to mind is I'm Not Here, which is the Bob Dylan biopic. And that was when they had different actors, male and female, playing Bob Dylan
Oh, hey.
so throughout different like periods of his life and musical career. And I thought that that was such a really unique and interesting choice that I really appreciated that. And I don't remember watching that movie and feeling sad about it. But I also not like over my winter break, I watched Walk the Line, which was Johnny Cash's biopic with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. And I loved that because those were their real voices and they took a lot of vocal singing and training and taught themselves how to play their
Wait, that was them singing?
yeah, it
I
was.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so yeah,
No wonder she won a
just
fucking Oscar.
yeah, and Joaquin Phoenix, I think he's known for at least that like hardcore crazy method acting where like
Oh, yeah.
he became Johnny Cash. And then growing up and like my dad loves the Beatles and I have inherited a lot of love for the Beatles and they haven't made like biopics per se, but I grew up watching a lot of like the Beatles movies, if
Hmm.
those count.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess those are the two that come to mind. But I realize that my watching biopics that I'm really not very racially and culturally diverse, and that I really want to go back and watch more movies of other artists and different genres. So
Yeah. I
tell me the
mean,
ones you like, because you got me turned on to like when we were talking about it. You're like, you've never seen the Tina Turner one?
oh my God, this is amazing. And you know what? I will say that, like, I think I don't want to speak for all of us because we are not a monolith, but Black people fuck with music biopics hard. And we have high expectations, I feel like, because I think when we get one, it just feels like, for one, we are getting a good story about a very important Black person who like made it, had success, and sometimes like it's like we need those stories to balance out all the other like kind of negative stories or portrayals. And not that biopics don't have like struggles and stuff, but like usually it's a story of some kind of success. But and then I just think like our biopics also take on like another life, because like some really important ones to me are like in terms of my childhood, are like the Temptations movie, the Tina Turner movie, the Jacksons, the American Dream. And like from the Temptations movies, there's like the meme of like David Ruffin, who's played by Leon. And he's like, ain't nobody come to see you, Otis. Like, and that's like a huge meme for like Black people on social media, like on Black Twitter and stuff. Or like the Tina Turner movie also. And I was thinking about this, and it's hard to reckon why this has become like a kind of satirical movie in a sense for us, because like her story has a lot of abuse in it. But there are moments in that movie that have become like bigger than the movie in a way, because like there's a scene where Ike is like trying to force feed her cake and exert his like dominance over her in a public setting and stuff. And she's like, I don't want to eat the cake. And he's like, eat the cake, anime. Like, and he shoves it in her face. And that's like terrible to watch. But like it's been mentioned in rap songs, like it's in Drunken Love.
Drunken Love, yeah.
Yes, holy that shit. Is from that movie. It's in Drunken Love. I'm pretty sure Lil Wayne has said it. And then you have like now, especially with TikTok, people doing like lip syncing and spoofs of scenes from the movie of like her singing the song and like Ike being like, I told you to sing it this way and like stuff like that. But and then to me, like a really good recent one that I really enjoyed that made me like want to learn more, or at least listen to the music, was the New Edition movie, because I think they did a really good job with that movie. They did a lot of music video recreation, which at that time, like 80s, 90s stuff is huge. And like there's some iconic New Edition music videos, because you have If It Isn't Love, which Beyonce referenced for Love on Top. So it's amazing to be able to capture that time and this group, because New Edition really is like the foundation for the modern boy band. Like there would be no New Kids on the Block if it wasn't for New Edition. And a lot of people don't know that unless you grew up like knowing about New Edition. But New Kids on the Block will say that. And then from New Kids on the Block, of course, you have our generation of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and stuff like that, B2K. But without New Edition, where would we be? So that's a really good one as of recently. And I won't go too much further into that, but I will say that I also noticed lately, to me, I think biopics, especially music ones, benefit from being multiple parts or a series of some sort, because
rather than just one movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I think the Selena movie is great as is, because unfortunately her life was short, but like it's hard to tell someone's life story in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And
like I'm thinking of Ray, right? Like the Ray Charles movie.
Ray is an amazing movie too. Like, and I just look at Ray more as like the music's great and everything. It didn't get me like super like I need to look into Ray Charles or like listen to his albums or anything. I have a deep, profound respect for him, of course, because of the movie and being able to kind of see his life story and understand like exactly like what he went through. But to me, Ray is such a strong acting performance to me. Like it doesn't scream like music centered. Well, it is music. I don't know. I look at it differently in a way. But what was I saying? Multiple parts, because like the Temptations movie, their careers spanned multiple decades, and they had like their ups and downs, and then you have multiple members. So you have to kind of give weight to everyone's story and tell their struggles along with the group and what was happening with the group. So that benefits from being like a really multi-part movie. The Jacksons, the American Dream, the same thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's really like group movies, because there's so much like group stuff and individual stuff that you have to capture, because those are all groups: New Edition, Jacksons, the Temptations. But so I was saying that to segue into Selena the series, because I do think there are some things that the series is able to capture better than the movie. But in a lot of ways, I think that the movie, all in all, did a great job of really kind of sealing her iconography as like how people remembered her and how people learned about her, especially like someone like me who didn't know about her prior to the movie. And then you watch the movie and then you come to like love and appreciate like everything she was about. Whereas like if I had watched this series only and never seen the movie, or the movie never existed, I don't know that it's it's portraying her in a very, not in a like, it's not portraying her in a bad way at all, but the movie is more focused, I feel like, on Selena and like really preserving like who she was and what she meant. And the series, I think, is really focusing so far, because it's kind of released in two chunks. It's
Mm-hmm.
focusing so far on like the journey of her family and the band, and there's more stuff that isn't in the movie about AB and his struggles writing songs and producing and stuff. And then Suzette's a little more featured than in the movie. And that's great. I think that's great because they deserve all the credit too, because they're just as much a part of Selena's legacy. At like Como LaFleur wouldn't exist without AB. Like, he wrote that song and he helped compose a lot of her songs and stuff. So you have to give credit where credit is due. But at the same time, I think the series is named Selena the series, and
Mm-hmm.
I told people like after I watched it, like maybe they should have considered like naming it like the Quintanilla family, the American Dream, like the Jacksons, the American Dream, or something, because
Because
that's
it
really,
does seem to focus more on the family.
yeah. And again, that's not to fault them. I think after all this time, they deserve to have some of their story told as well, because as much as they've been preserving Selena's legacy and her memory, like they've been working hard to do that, and they put in work with her to even for her to have a legacy. But we're talking about it more so because like we don't have to imagine what a remake would be like, or what if this came out in 2020, 2021, what it would be like, because we're getting it in a way,
Yeah.
and it's already not up to par. So, and I mean, part of me too is like, how much money did Netflix put into this? Because a lot of stuff is just, it could be better with like budget in a way.
Mm.
Like the outfits, the wigs, some of the performances. Like one of my nitpicky things was like the series starts off with a performance of Como LaFleur, and it seems like they're using the same audio from the performance in the movie, the Monterey performance, which I think is the audio from the Astrodome performance, but it just doesn't hit the same. And I feel like when you have something that already exists that obviously people are going to compare it to, you want to differentiate stuff as much as possible. And I think starting off with that performance, obviously, you don't want to start off with the Astrodome performance like the movie, but the Como LaFleur performance from the movie is also like one of the best ones in the movie too. So it's like you're already starting off like where you're not going to like be able to surpass what we've already seen like captured. And then I do think that it does a good job of telling their early story. There's way more in there that wasn't in the movie, and that again is just being able to allow that time in a series versus a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it's only gotten to like where Selena and Chris, or Chris gets kicked out the band. So we're not even like into them being married and stuff. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. But yeah, that's my gripe about the series or opinion. and we could still recast the movie with J-Lo if we wanted to. So
Hell yeah, we could. Well, one name that came to mind, and so I'm curious to know if you had someone else, if they were to make another Selena biopic movie that would be separate from the Netflix series. I- When I was watching this movie again, I thought a lot about Demi Lovato.
she's
And
actually dressed up as Selena.
yeah, and I think that especially young Demi Lovato looked a lot like young Selena, or at least like the actress who played the young Selena in the movie. I know body types are a little bit different and they totally don't have to be the same, but Demi Lovato is someone over the years who I've really come to respect her vocal and vocal abilities, and I could really see her crushing um some of the more like heartfelt performances. I would really love, I wonder if there's a copy somewhere out there of Demi Lovato singing I Could Fall in Love. So I
I
felt like
did
she could do it.
I did see a video of like Becky G or someone singing I Could Fall in Love, I think, or Dreaming of You. I don't know a lot about Demi Lovato to have a strong opinion. I actually, in my mind, her and Selena Gomez, I'm like, why are you guys still famous? I don't know a lot about their careers. I don't follow them or listen to them. I could see like look wise a little bit. I'm it's what is Demi Lovato's like ethnicity? Like, is she white or like is she
I think sh
Latinx or
I think she is.
because another like casting thing
Mhm.
too was that the studio wanted to have someone white, a la Scarlett Johansson's infamous career,
Ugh.
um, have someone white play Selena. And even though the family, like, at first didn't pick Jennifer Lopez, they still had to push, like, no, we need someone of Latin descent to at least play her. Like, goddamn. So, that would be my only commentary because I really can't opinion wise. Honestly, when they announced the series, I was like, well, the movie's amazing. What more could they tell us? I see now what more they could tell us, but at the same time, to me, I feel like I brought up earlier like biopic versus documentary, and I think at this point in Selena's legacy, like you have a beautiful movie that holds up and is still amazing. You don't need to venture into that like fictional retelling again. There's
Sure.
plenty of footage of her. And I'm pretty sure there's plenty of footage that we haven't seen. And I understand obviously this is their daughter, this is their sister, this is their wife, and everyone has emotional ties. Everyone still is grieving, and you can still see it with the family when they talk about her and stuff. But I think if anything, at this point after the series, if they do anything more with her, it's like maybe trying to sort through some of that footage and doing a documentary. And I think it would be beautiful to hear. Of course, there's interviews here and there, but it would be beautiful to hear from the people who knew her and have them speak about her and her career, and for the bands, like their journey with her and their experiences and stories with her. And I know not everyone wants to share that stuff and they don't owe us that at all, but I just think if there's anywhere for them left to go, it's that way.
Agreed. And that I didn't bring that up to say that I think that there needs to be a another
Well, no, of
retelling or
course.
remake of the movie. But now that we have this Netflix show that came out last year, which I still haven't seen, it's part of my homework. I will watch it. Um, but I think that if anything, definitely, I would love to see a documentary just because Selena was so pioneering. And they brought this up in the movie how people that like they were afraid that she wasn't going to be successful because she was a woman and people didn't want to pay to see solo female artists at this time, and she broke through a lot of barriers in Tejano music and became such a huge visibility piece for young girls and women out there.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear like the historical piece of that, of this rise of this star, this era of music.
I think obviously there could be a standalone Selena documentary, but there could also be like a series documentary just on like the history of piano music. And obviously Selena's a part of it, but like tell about the people that came before her and the larger picture, and really get an understanding for people who don't know like the role she played in that whole history of music. It's easy to just like spout off things like La Reina and, you know, the queen of Tejano music, but it's another thing to truly understand why people say that about her and why people call her that. And let's do the fun movie snack cocktail.
All right, let's get
Concoction.
into it. Let's get into it. Definitely, I feel like our answers are going to be the same.
No, they're not, because I
Oh.
worked on this time.
Okay, all right. So my movie spread is going to be pizza and Coca-Cola and Doritos for sure. If I'm making a boozy drink, I want a sangria the color of that purple jumpsuit.
Ooh, okay. So, yes, our movie spreads are somewhat. Obviously, you can't deny the like pizza, Coca-Cola, Doritos connection. So I knew we were going to both be there in a way. So I was like, I got to think of an actual drink. So I thought of the actual cocktail, and so it's going to be named Coma La Flor, and I'm thinking like last time you were talking about like glittery wine and stuff, like so again, like the purple jumpsuit, nice little glittery purple like cocktail with a white chocolate rose garnish.
A baby.
And I don't know, it just in my mind it looks so pretty, and I feel like it just screams like if you looked at that drink, like you would automatically be like, oh, Selena. Like,
yeah.
So that's my cocktail. I don't know what's in it really. Probably like
sangria and edible glitter.
Yeah, whatever makes it sparkle. And, some kind of alcohol. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I mean, I think we did a pretty good job.
I think we did a pretty good job too. And I'm glad we decided to make this into a two-parter.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. And to the people who stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the great value version of Inside the Actor's Studio.
But seriously, if y'all have stuck around with us for this long, you might as well take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss U-Turn next week.
And on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone.
And I'm your host, Bria, and this has been another episode of
Roll Call!